Hello and welcome to the bonus episode of Spainfully Honest. We're going to talk a little bit about the Dana Alice that's swept through the eastern part of Spain, and we're in the Murcia region, so one of the regions that felt the most impact from the Dana. So we're going to talk a little bit about it today.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite dramatic in the end.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had them before, but I think it's one of the most intense for a short period of time.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, although it was advertised very well, at least probably a week before, let's say,
Yeah.
so people were expecting it, but it was the intensity for a short period of time between, particularly in Lopagan, I'm sure it was different perhaps elsewhere, but where we are, between sort of 2 and 4 o'clock on Friday, that was heavy.
And then for a bit around 7.
Yeah,
Well,
it sort of went
that
and
was
came back.
mental. Yeah, it was.
I got some figures off the internet, and La Manga and Cabo de Palos had 120 litres per square metre of rain, which is a lot
That's
in
intense.
such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like I say, the forecasts have been so good recently over the summer,
Extremely
and
specific.
it sort of said it's going to start at 12, and it literally started spitting at at 12 o'clock. But then when it got to 2, I live on quite close to the beach, on a side road that obviously runs down to the beach, and it's a hill. And it's I don't know, it's one car, it's one way, it's one car with 2 pavements, so it's sort of 20 foot wide. And it started at 12, and it started with a little bit of a river running down the middle of it. And the peak, I'd say 3 o'clock, the water was the whole width of the street. Only shallow, but the whole width of the street down to the front. And then pictures started to appear, didn't they, on Facebook and things. And there's one classic one at the centre of Lopagan, right in the centre, with the bin, the wheelie bin, washing down the street.
I love that video. It's so
very good.
Of Murcia, because if you listen to the volume, they're absolutely in stitches laughing watching this.
Well, they're all, I know where it's taken them. They're in the bar, aren't they? They're in the bar watching it, watching this thing go past.
The water is rising beside them, and they're sitting there in kinks of laughter looking at this bin being swept down. One of the things I wanted to say as well, I know we want to try and talk about the timeline of it, but there's always specific areas that are shown because there's certain areas where the water accumulates, but that's not a reflection of what it was like everywhere.
No, that's right. I mean, and also, there were certain areas that were dirty, as in agricultural, come off the land onto the road, and you can see those, and they're tidying up those now.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was just water.
Yeah.
The bit in the centre of the town wasn't particularly dirty, it was just water.
Yeah. And there are always you could probably pinpoint before, when you know you're going to have one of these danas, one of these storms, you can probably, every person in each of their own towns could probably tell you the areas that will flood, because there are the same areas every time it rains that flood. So if you are thinking about moving up to Spain, or you want to move to Spain, don't be worried about what you're seeing on the media, or what you're seeing on some of the social media content. Just ask around. What are the spots that usually flood? They'll be able to tell you.
Well, if you go back on YouTube, you got to see a lot.
Yeah.
I did that for when, because we had a bad one, like 9 years ago in Los Alcatraz, and the whole of the centre of the town was affected.
Oh, it was really bad.
If you go onto YouTube now and put, that year in, and Los Alcatraz, it comes up, and you can see the centre. And they've had it quite bad this time, but not like that.
No.
And a lot of the videos that you see, they're sort of a little bit scaremongering, which I'm not keen on, to be honest with you.
Me neither.
There's a picture of somebody with that.
Yeah.
Mouth wide open. When you look at where the video was taken, it was taken in the dry riverbed.
Yeah.
That is what that is for.
Yes.
When it's not dry, it's a river.
Yeah.
And that's why it's flowing so fast.
And that's, and Roy Keane would say, that's its job.
Exactly, yeah. There's bins flowing down there. It's because that's where they put the bins, to keep the bins, because the rest of the time it's a perfectly dry area, and they keep the bins there out of the way. And then the bins are seen floating past, but it's because the bins were in the dry riverbed.
The Rambla, they're called the Rambla in Spanish, the dry riverbeds. They're created so that when it does rain, when the rivers from inland overflow a little bit, when the water starts to run off the land from inland, it's guided towards these ramblas, the dry riverbeds, to sweep it, whether you agree with that or not, back out into the sea. And so that's what they're doing. That's their job.
I mean, it was high, so it was overflowing the sides on the pavements, and I guess some houses have been affected, so that's not good. But you know, it was an excessive amount of rain on that day. You know, and so under normal circumstances that would not have happened.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be aware if you are coming over here to look at properties, and there is a ramble there. They're fairly obvious.
Yeah.
You know, they're often very nicely decorated with footpaths and benches and trees and things because for 5 years it's effectively just a bit of a park.
Yeah.
But if you see one of those and you're looking at houses close by, you need to think how high could it rise? It does surprise me. I drove back yesterday through. I went to play golf in the morning, and I drove back through Pilar de Horadada, and things like they built Mercadona in a hollow. You know, why did they do that? And it's a new Mercadona. You know, so somebody's not been thinking, well, let's just build it up off.
I was just going to say, a lot of the times it's bad planning, really. You know, especially when in relation to the Ramblas. You know, and even like you can see in this area, even where Dos Mares was built and where it's created, it's a lot of streets coming into one area.
And it's low.
Yeah, the water is going to sit there, you know, so Dos Mares, the shopping centre near us, was completely flooded. It happens every now and again, not often, but I think I've seen it since I lived in this area. I've seen Dos Mares flood twice, this being the second time, and the water is like waist level inside the shopping centre. Nobody in this Dana, well, it's ongoing, and because they're still having a really bad up in the north, the Spain Tarragona area. In the Dana that affected Alicante and Murcia, nobody passed away as of yet. No, we haven't heard of any deaths or anything like that. So everyone was fine. So don't worry. As we're talking about floodwater like this, nobody was injured or no one was killed. Luckily, not compared to the one last year in Valencia. That unfortunately hundreds of people passed away, and it was really bad planning, I think, that led to all those deaths.
Well, I think the effect of that one has been that there's been a lot more precautionary messages given out. So this one literally was advertised over a week in advance that it was going to be a red warning and there was going to be a lot of rain. And there was, but people knew about it.
And then on the Thursday, they realized it, because sometimes they'll say red alert, but they're not sure if it's going to be really red, but they'll say red so people are ready. But then on the Thursday, the day before, because the Friday was the worst day here, on the day before there was an orange alert on the Thursday. And on the Thursday, they decided then to close all the schools on the Friday. So that's when you kind of knew, it's going to be a bad one. So they closed all the schools, and then a lot of supermarkets decided to close. They closed the town halls. There are people who were told that had doctor's appointments in the Centro de Salud, in the medical centre, that don't come to your appointment, just come if there's an emergency. So a lot of small businesses also decided to close as well. So it just kind of shut down, didn't it?
I think this time I noticed it a lot more than perhaps previous ones, that people adhered to that.
Yes.
There were not many. I can see a main road from me, and it was quiet. You know, there weren't people trying to go through it or whatever. And you have to be a bit responsible about it as a person. You know, if you don't need to go out, you run out of tomato ketchup. So what? Leave it, because what you're going to get, where there is a situation where somebody, a pensioner needs to be rescued because they can't get out of the house, those emergency vehicles need to get through.
Yeah. And they're the ones then that end up getting bother sometimes as well, because they have to go out and rescue somebody.
So your car breaks down in the middle of somewhere where something's not to get through.
I was getting annoyed, which is not usual, on Facebook, because I was like, there's all these questions. Is such and such a restaurant open? Is such and such a cafe open? I'm like, for one night, can you not just cook your dinner at home? Like, just cook your dinner at home. It's like mad people.
It impacts the business, obviously, but you have to be a bit more responsible, don't you?
Well, a lot of the places actually closed.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So the difference between this one and previous ones is that we've got in our area, sort of the San Pedro, San Javier, Los Alcatres area, we've had an ongoing impact, which is the water's been polluted.
Yes.
Drinking water. And literally 2 minutes ago, as we're doing this, at 10:57, I got a message on my phone saying the water supply was being cut off.
Yeah. And we checked and
it's gone.
It's gone.
So this is sort of the events as they happened as far as I know. So, and it's a bit like when we had the electrical power cut thing. I'm impressed with how it's been dealt with again, because this cannot have been expected. We had all the advance warnings of it happening, and then on the Saturday, there were some messages to say that certain things were happening and things were closing and things weren't going to open because of the water. And then I got on Sunday morning, I got an email from my water company telling me that the water had been contaminated and they shouldn't do it, and it gave you a list of things that you shouldn't do. Firstly, everything. The only thing they said that was possible was to flush the toilet.
And mop your floor.
And that was it, really. Everything else, don't use it for, not even showers, not even boiling it. So that was given out. That was Sunday morning. And on yesterday morning, so Monday morning at 9:30, I got another message saying that they were putting emergency trucks out with water in, and if you wanted to go and get water, you could take a bottle. And it gave a location in the centre of town, but only for an hour, which I thought, for potentially 10,000 people, that could be a lot of people queuing for water. That was at 9:30 yesterday morning. I then got another message in the evening at about 7 o'clock, telling me that had now changed, that they were effectively keeping a supply there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, and gave you about 6 different locations that you could go to. So that was a lot better. You had to take your own container and then refill it.
And then they have they have the details of the vulnerable people in the town. Yeah. And so the civil protection team called them people up to tell them not to come out of their houses, that they would deliver water to them. And I think that's happened. I've seen a few complaints, of course, on Facebook about it not coming in a timely manner or whatever, but that facility was made available. So old people didn't have to go out, because you have to bring your own container to get your water. But of course, old people can't be carrying liters and liters of water. So there is the facility for people to have the water delivered to them, which I think is a nice step.
Yeah. And then literally this morning, a few minutes ago, I got a message saying that the water company were turning the water off. Yeah. And I guess that is to effectively clean the system.
To clean it through. I think it's good. I think that means we might be closer to being able to use it again.
There's one thing that, this is personal to me, but I think it's something you might need to think about. If you live in a community where you have effectively a communal water supply, in my apartment, we have 2 enormous water tanks that supply the whole block. Effectively, they're going to be contaminated. Yeah. Because although, there's not many people using it, whenever, it has a system like a toilet, so effectively when somebody uses it, it refills itself. Well, from Friday or whenever the contamination happened, this thing would have been refilling itself. And so you need to speak to our administrator about what they do, about who's going to empty it, who's going to clean it out, and who's going to refill it. I've contacted my administrator. They were closed because Sunday was a Spaniard Day. Some places closed on Monday as a bridge day, and so they weren't there until this morning. They have come back and said they're dealing with it. They haven't just said how they're dealing with it. But just check if your supply is part of the community, just in case.
And something else that they've done is in the neighbouring town, Pilar or Vela, they haven't been affected. They were flooded, but their water supply wasn't contaminated. And so they opened their sports hall to everyone from 7 o'clock in the morning until midnight, so you can go up there and have a shower.
Fantastic.
Which is lovely, isn't that so lovely? And that's I think it's just a hallmark of Spain in general, whether it be when the electricity went off or this, people just come together, don't they, and really support each other. I think it's lovely. And they complain on Facebook, but in general, in person, they support each other.
Everywhere you went. So I was in an area unaffected on Sunday. And then I was driving home, so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go into the Carrefour, it was in Cartagena. I'll go into the Carrefour, buy some water, and then take it home, so we've got some extra water. And the water aisle was totally empty. Empty. Even the little baby bottles, all gone, totally gone. And that was like 30 kilometers away from the affected area.
Yeah.
Everybody had the same idea.
But that was kind of annoying me on social media. A lot of people who have social media accounts and their content is about living in Spain and stuff, we all know that negativity gets more views, it's more shared. So a lot of people play on that a little bit. Yeah. We don't here. Here in Spain, to be honest, we're balanced. But a lot of people, I feel strategic to me, it feels like strategic content. They know it's going to get views if they go in and be negative about something.
Yeah, people to death.
Yeah. So they're all there in the supermarket videoing themselves with empty shelves. And I'm like, God, talk about making people panic more and make people feel worse. When you think about it logically, On Friday, the businesses were told, on Thursday, the businesses were told what was going to happen on Friday. So the businesses were closed on Friday. It was a bank holiday weekend, and a lot of places closed on bank holiday Monday as well. So of course, when you go into the supermarket, between one thing or another, between the bank holiday, between the rain, they're not able to get stock in, the water's gone, so people go in and get water. Well, the supermarkets aren't going to be as full as they usually are. And of course, people are going to rush out and buy water.
And it's never happened before. So we've had the floods before.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember half a dozen at least in my 20 years, various degrees of severity.
Yeah.
But this has never happened before.
No.
So it's not something that you could think of and plan about. All I would say is that next time we get the warning, it might be worth getting a couple of 8 litre buckets in, even if you're only getting them, because then you've got a container once you've used them to get some water.
Exactly.
But it may never happen again.
And that's another little thing that's just reminded me that when you're looking from outside Spain and you're looking at the media and stuff like that, it can look like there's flash floods in Spain all the time and it's everywhere. Last year, it was mainly, the Costa del Sol got it a little bit, and mainly the north of Valencia, whereas we weren't affected at all last year by that massive Dana. But then in 2017 and 2019, this area was affected. Some towns, some areas, you might get it once every couple of years. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's not something that happens in every town every single year.
And when it does happen, the majority, 99% of the places are not affected.
No.
So you do have to, if you're buying somewhere, just have a bit of common sense and just walk around it for a start. If it's low down, it's likely that it could be affected.
Yes. I mean, our road there's never any bother here on this road. The water just runs off this road and it's absolutely fine. And it just shows you what the content does. Like my son, who's 8, was kept looking out the window all the time as he's like, is it going to flood? Is it going to flood? And I kept explaining to him that not every road floods. It'd be fine. That this road is it's slightly at an angle. What would you say?
It's sloping.
It's sloping. Yeah. And so the water runs off it. The water never rises in this road. It just runs off this road. Never even comes into the garden. Nothing is we're never affected in this area, which is a great area. And so, but when you're putting that content out there, that's really dramatic. I don't mean the news, because you have to cover it as news. But when you're effectively trying to make it more negative or more dramatic, just think about people who are looking at that content. I just think it's not very responsible.
And also, say how well it was dealt with.
Yeah.
And it was dealt with so well. I've been out this morning, and they are, around where our old store was, used to flood.
Yeah.
And they're out there now. They're cleaning it all up, and by this afternoon, you won't know.
Yeah.
And that's got a lot of fields around it. So it's not that there's no water there now. It's just that the soil has been deposited on.
And listen, always giving props. The president of the region of Murcia, Fernando Lopez Miras, whether you're PP or PSOE or whatever you are, he, as a leader of this region, always handled things very well. I'm always impressed with him, because actually when you compare what happened in this region and you compare what happened in Valencia, same party, both PP, the person who managed Valencia didn't manage Valencia through that Dana last year, you look at their timeline and actually it wasn't managed very well. And we look at the timeline here, it was managed very well. Now listen, up there was a bit different because a lot of rivers, the banks of the rivers broke. And that's when you see that gushing water rushing, literally tearing through houses on social media or on the news. And it's terrifying, it's horrendous. I couldn't even imagine what that would be like. That's not the rainwater. That's a river that's broken its banks. It's just the rainfall onto your street would never cause that rushing water. It's the rain that fills up the river, and the river then breaks its banks that causes that water to rush through streets. So again, if you are thinking about moving to Spain, and of course these little towns are so beautiful, if it does have a river running through it, it's worth keeping in mind, and certainly worth asking the neighbours around,
Or just generally looking, is it higher than the river?
Yeah.
If it's not, if it's below the river but next to it, and you think, the banks will be fine. It may not be. So.
Yeah. So, and the townspeople, they've lived there all their lives, they're probably not going to move. They'll tell you the truth.
The thing with sort of comparing it to a lot of other countries, Northern European and English, is that it happens 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
And the first time it happens and knocks all the houses down, that's it. You don't build houses there again.
Yeah.
Here, it might not have happened before.
Yeah.
And so, it's a new development that was 10 years ago and they haven't had this level of rain before. Then something happens, so it's a new experience.
Yeah.
So, it may not be as obvious that it's going to happen. In the UK, it's happened so many times that they know that area is a problem, and so they deal with it in a different way. Here, it could be the first time.
Yeah. I always say, because you don't really see, I mean, last year's Anna was, I think, mad, and I think it affected a lot of places in Spain, places that are geared up for rain and places that are not geared up for rain. But most of the time, the coast of Spain, the south of Spain, is not geared up for rain, it's geared up for heat. And so Ireland and the UK are geared up for rain. I always compare when it rains really badly here, like at Dana, I always compare it to a snow day in Dublin. Like, it doesn't snow a lot in Ireland, should I say. It doesn't snow a lot in Ireland. It does every now and again, but when it does, the whole country shuts down. It's like Ireland is not geared up for snow. But of course, if you then went to Norway, it's snow. It's like, it's normal.
It's used to it.
And so, of course, here, it's geared up for the heat. The houses are built for the heat. Everything is built, as we've been speaking about in all of the episodes being done, almost everything from traditions to how houses are built, how furniture is made, is all centered around heat, really, isn't it? So when it rains heavily like this, the whole sewage systems and everything aren't really geared up for the heavy rain.
They did it on one of the resorts on the way to Murcia, where they effectively built it on a riverbed and then created the riverbed that ran through the park, tarmacked it and put swings and things on that. And then they were surprised when it flowed through it, went higher than the sides, which hadn't been raised, they'd just been sort of concreted to make it even better, and then flooded the houses that were adjacent.
And I mean, the river was just like, well, we're back. It's like, this is where we go.
This is where we go.
It doesn't matter if you put your house there or not. The river just tore through.
But what they did there was they effectively built walls. And they've put walls, and they've made it now into effectively a dry riverbed. And so when it does happen, it flows through the dry riverbed.
That was back in the day when people were just throwing houses up everywhere, weren't they? It was like that absolute, what would you call it? They were through the roof. It was just a time when it was crazy building. And I don't think they'll ever build like that again. But essentially,
you'd like to think that.
You would like to think that, yeah. Essentially, there was no planning involved, or very little planning involved in the houses. And really, you can see that when the rain.
I think you need to sort of have it more often. I know it sounds really bad, but if you had one a year, people wouldn't build there, would they? But when it sort of dries off and doesn't happen for 10 years, people think it's
be grand, or be grand, or people will remember. I don't know which one.
This land was cheap. I wonder why. So it's ranting. We're ranting a lot.
It's a bit of a ranty episode, but I see a lot of how it's viewed from the outside, and wanted to kind of tell people what it's like from the inside. See a lot of, as I spoke about, negative content, but I'm going to call it strategic negative content, which I don't like, because of course news and the media have to cover it. It's newsworthy, and of course the news also helps get it out there so people are aware of what's happening. Like, a lot of people didn't realize that the water was contaminated because it was just on maybe the town hall social media. Afterwards,
I did think about that. If you were coming on holiday, how would you have heard about it?
Afterwards, and a lot of people, I think it came from social media actually, because I could see a lot of people commenting on social media. How are people supposed to find out about this? And afterwards, then they sent through trucks and ambulances through the streets on the megaphone, but of course in Spanish. But that's fine, we're in Spain. But if you're on holiday here, how are you supposed to find out? So of course, I covered it for the Euro Weekly News, so that's in English. It's the news in English. It's to get the information out there so people would know, not to use the water, what they can use the water for, where to go to get water when you need water. So it does need to be shared on the media. News people do need to cover it. But I do think, and I repeat, if you're creating content for social media, please think about how you're reporting this stuff, because, is it like a couple of thousand clicks really worth it?
Yeah, very true.
Oh, that's dramatic, wasn't it? It was. Kind of shocked myself there.
Anyway, be safe. Don't drink the water until they tell you can drink the water.
On a lighthearted note, I wanted to speak about how I washed my hair.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I don't have much of a problem.
It was the thing that I was most concerned about. I was like, how am I going to wash my hair? So, we have family up in next town, Pilar, but I had a lot of work yesterday, so I wasn't able to go to their house and shower. Or my mom went to the sports hall and had a shower, which was an experience, but still, it's nice that she could do it. But I used 2 8-liter bottles. 3. And I was like, oh, only 3, leave me 1. And he kind of looked at me and said, I'll leave 2. Needed the 2. I had to shampoo and rinse out my hair as well. You don't realize how much water you're using when you're in the shower. It makes you conscious of how much water you use as well. And I can report, whilst I was freezing washing myself.
You didn't warm it up then? From the cooker.
What? Jesus, like the deer on like going down, heating up in the cooker, throwing it over myself. What do I do for the next lot?
We used to bath in front of the fire. The screams, that's what the screams were in love again. Catherine's washing her hair again.
On a positive note, my hair feels marvellous.
It looks fantastic.
Bottled
I think you should do it more often. Bottled water, 8 litres. No, 16 litres of bottled water.
Yeah. But anyway, before we finish up, I just wanted to, probably should have done it at the start, but just let people know that what DANA stands for is Depresión Aislada en Niveles Altos. So it's, what's that in English?
It's a depression with
isolated depression of high levels. But I think we usually translate it into cold drop. People really attack you online. You say that because it's not technically correct, but that's how we translate it, a cold drop. So basically, it's when the weather system moves in and it's months worth of rain. In
so we used to say we got a free, didn't we?
A cold drop.
Yeah. And there always used to be one in September.
Yeah.
It used
September,
to, and that seems to have dropped off a little bit because they were quite severe, but not like that.
Yeah.
But now we don't seem to have as many got-a-freers, but we have a big one-off.
Yeah, it's more.
I don't know.
It's like the change in the weather, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you have it usually after the summer because it's like the heat gets trapped and the cold front comes in and they meet and then the rain comes down. And I'm sure it's more technical than that. I'm not a weather person, so don't attack me. But more or less, that's it. And then where it causes problems is when like all that water comes down at once, but when it stays in the one area for a long time. So that's what happened here. It was two weather systems came together and they, for whatever reason, they weren't going to move on and they stayed over.
Because Malaga had it bad last year, didn't it? It wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad as the one in Valencia, but it was bad. So I think it got underreported a little bit because the Valencia one was horrendous. But so Malaga, I was looking on Facebook and Malaga, they're like, yippee, we haven't had it this year, yippee.
Yeah, but last year when Malaga were affected and Valencia were affected, we were in the middle.
So we were yippee.
Yeah, it was like raining all around us. It's like we were under some kind of bubble where we're protected. So yeah, it's fine. And then also I want to highlight that we've been talking about orange alert, red alert. So these are EMET is the weather organization of Spain, and they create these alert systems. So you can actually go and look them up and see what they mean. So they have the alert system for heat, and they also have the alert system for the weather.
They are very, very accurate.
Yeah. Oh, they got a little bit slammed this time because they changed the red alert here on Friday at 7 p.m. to orange. But actually, that's when some of the heaviest rain fell. So the president for this area was complaining a little bit about why did they do that. There was no need for them to do it. They could have just left the red alert in place.
I mean, I sort of wouldn't have agreed it in my house because I was like sitting on the terrace. It was covered, so I was sitting on the terrace. And the worst time was I'd say 2 till 4. Yeah. And then it like you say, it came back at 7, but it didn't get as high as it did on the road.
So intense that period. It was
proper wet rain.
Whoa,
you would have got soaked.
Absolutely.
There's nobody about. Very few people about. You can see that from when you see the things going down the road. There's hardly any cars there, which is sensible. So
if you want to understand the weather alerts a little bit more, you can go and look them up. So you've got yellow alert, orange alert, red alert. As you can probably understand, yellow is not that bad, orange is medium, red is awful. And the same goes for the heat. You've got your heat alerts as well, so yellow, orange, and red. So make sure, do look them up, especially if you want to come and live here, so that you know what they are. And usually, EMET will share them on social media everywhere. They have accounts on all the big platforms, but then the town halls will usually resend them out as well. So look out for those.
Yeah, look out for the one in this area, the San Pedro one, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I think they all are.
So there you go.
So be safe. Don't drink too much water, because there's not a lot about it in a minute. Well, I'm sure in a few days. So it must be about another 4 days, we're guessing.
From Saturday.
4 or 5 days still to go. And the other thing is the supermarkets will be gearing up to it. There'll be water everywhere. Might be a little bit more expensive because everybody likes to make a profit. So be safe, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.